Estate Agency X, the UK's #1 estate agency podcast discussing the future of estate agency, entrepreneurship and business, host Mark Burgess and Rob Brady.
Welcome to this episode of Estate Agency X. Today I'm talking to Kerry Brown from Brown's Estate Agents. She's got a small estate agency in the northeast of England, I have to get that right, whereby she's gone through the process of starting an estate agency that was really just there for the purpose of looking after her rental properties with her partner, became a letting agency, moved over into being a sales agent, and is now expanding into becoming a real business. We talked to her about the challenges that she faces, how she managed to get through them, how she managed to make anything of the mess, and where she is with it right now. Kerry, thanks for coming in. It's a long way for you to come.
It is.
What we wanted to talk to you about today really is your journey in a estate agency so far. So before we jump into that, are you okay just to give anyone who's watching or listening a bit of a background on yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Kerry from Brown's Estate Agents, based in South Shields, which is a coastal town. We've had an estate agent for estate agency only since 2019, but a letting agency for 10 years prior to that.
Okay, so I guess my first question is around the letting agency then.
Yeah.
What led you to opening a letting agency?
So both Paul and myself both had different experiences with properties before we met. So
And Paul's your partner, right?
Paul's my partner, yeah. So Paul had a few properties that he had developed and started to rent out before I met him. But I also was doing property renovation at the time. So obviously we both, when we met, had the same interests, and it just naturally progressed from there.
And was it a case that you were both using letting agents and thought, this looks easy, we can make loads of money? Or was it a case that you thought like, well, for the money we're paying these letting agents, we could just do our own stuff? How did that sort of...
No, we're doing it ourselves, so we manage them
right
ourselves.
Okay. So then it just turned into we could manage other people's.
Yeah. So we both worked full time at the time, and we had a loft office, and we used to do everything from the loft in the house
For your own property.
for our own properties. But then obviously it got to a point where we had quite a significant portfolio, and it was just too much for it to manage. So we did start using a local agent who would do like a tenant find and set everything up for us. But then obviously it was like a decision, what do we do? So I decided to leave my teaching job and go into the letting agency full time.
So what had you been teaching?
I taught beauty therapy and anatomy and physiology.
And in any way whatsoever, did that prepare you for what you was about to do as a letting agent?
It's easier being a letting agent. Much easier.
So you start the letting agency, and how did you start trying to let people know that you could do the whole service for them?
It came quite naturally, to be honest with you. So we bought a property to renovate that was quite a big property, and it had an office on the side. So I went there, but at the time we just had a little boy. So we took on a part-time member of staff just to help us manage our properties.
Yeah.
And then it was just word of mouth and people talking that were renting properties. And obviously we had a sign out just so our tenants and knew where they would come to sign paperwork. And then it was just naturally people asking us. So we didn't really do anything to advertise.
Yeah.
It was people came to us. And at that time when we opened the office, we didn't have any CRM systems or anything. It was literally, everything was paper-based. And then it got to a point where that started getting a little bit, we can't control that.
Too messy. Yeah.
So we've got a CRM system.
That's quite nice then. So in the beginning, maybe, was there not really any pressure around getting new business because it was like, well, we've just kind of set this up to manage for ourselves, and if anything comes, it comes?
That's exactly
probably the best way to be. It probably naturally then just led to stuff coming, and
It did. And as well, I think because while I was doing that,
Yeah.
Paul was doing property development, so our portfolio was growing.
Your portfolio, your income, that was all sorted. You didn't, no pressure around any of it. And
Yeah.
brilliant. So then that continues to grow, I guess, like you continue to, and it starts to become an actual letting agency now. Then what made you decide to move into sales?
Well, the letting agency, the office that we're in was quite small. So we'd bought another property, which is now our restaurant. So we'd have got another member of staff and we opened the new office. So it was just a natural progression. Once we'd got the new office, we had more staff. It was just a natural progression to go to sales, because people would ring and ask if we've done sales, and at the time we didn't. So it was just again another natural progression. Nothing that we thought, right, we're going to do that. It was just naturally went into it.
Nice, I like it.
I was just, like, one of the questions I was going to ask is portals. Like, when did you get involved with portals? Yeah, because when you probably did Tenant Find Yourself, what was that? Facebook, or it wasn't even really Facebook? Probably
not even Facebook. We newspaper. Yeah.
And then you went to an agent, and they probably did the same, but in their branding.
Yeah.
So, in that transition back, when did you start to get involved maybe with portals?
We didn't. It went on the market.
Came along.
Yeah.
And that was what, 17, wasn't it? 17, 18?
I think it was 18.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because we were just getting a CRM system.
Right,
then.
so it sort of coincided with it, because it's quite interesting, because so many agents out there who are maybe established for longer periods of time sometimes get stuck in the, we need portals, we need this, we need that, but what you take away that pressure, and you're going back to, like, how would I do it myself if I was it? You were sort of doing that yourself, so you were looking at different avenues.
Right. So once the letting agency and the sales agency were established, they'd started, there must have come a point whereby you now wanted them to run like a proper business.
Yeah.
What did you start to realise, or what happened at that point whereby, I don't know, things that the way you thought it was going to go, it didn't quite go that way, or things you thought were going to work didn't work? Like, what sort of lessons did you learn around those?
Well, so we moved into our new office in May 2019, which is when we decided, when we opened, that we'll go into sales. So, and obviously COVID came along not long after that. So I think when other estate agents were like booming with sales, we didn't really have the word out there at that time that we're doing sales. So we kind of just plodded along. And it was only really when we came out of lockdown and started working again that we really put our foot down with sales. At that time, we obviously went to the 3D Matterport tours, which I think kind of like stepped up a level. But it was always something, I'm always researching and looking into what's going to work, what's best. I do a lot of research, and everything that I was reading and everything I was come across was always social media and videos, especially from COVID, and I just couldn't find anything that was going to do what I wanted it to do. Obviously, until life cycle.
Yeah. And the other agents that were in your area, were you paying much attention to what they were doing and thinking we could do it better, or was it a case that you was really just swimming in your own lane, thinking like, well, this is what we're going to do? Like, I'm just thinking purely from the point of view of like somebody who's in the shoes that you were in then, and he's sitting there scratching their head, thinking like, where's this? Where do I need to go with this?
I think at the time, no one in our time was doing videos.
Right.
Nobody done any videos at all. So I think we were the first that started doing videos.
And that started to make a difference?
It did, in social media. And I think at the minute we're still the only agent that does the 3D tours, which we use for like our higher end packages now.
Yeah.
Um,
And do you think that that's do you think that it's that the 3D tours themselves and the videos are that much use to people, or do you think that it's more that the people you're going to see are seeing more value in what you're offering, even though they may not even look at the 3D tour themselves? Or which do you think it's one that is a practical use, or do you think that it's a psychological thing for people whereby they just think like, oh, you're going to do all of this?
Not everyone likes the 3D tours,
Yeah.
to be honest with you. I think it's raised our profile and like the standard that we're putting out there compared to different agents, that if you do want to go along them lines and you do want the best package, it's there.
Yeah.
Not everyone likes them.
Yeah, it's just helping you maybe step out of the crowd a little
Yeah,
bit.
I think we've definitely over the last 18 months started to find our feet a little bit and make ourselves different from other agents and what they're doing.
Yeah.
And getting ahead of others.
Because, like, sorry.
I was going to say, like, what did you find in the transition going from lettings, from effectively your own self-employed developer, letting agent, then employing someone, coming actually a letting agent, and then doing sales?
Mm-hmm.
What did you find, again, like Mark asked a question earlier, what did you find doing it yourself, setting up that brand? So what have you found differently from being a letting agent to a sales agent? Not necessarily the Matterport, but like, how have you thought? How have you approached it? Did you have preconceived ideas? Like we had Paul on before, and he asked someone young, and said like, what do you do what's an agent do? And he said, well, I'll just take pictures, put it on Rightmove, and put a board up wherever it was. So like, what was your views to what you think now?
I think lettings is easier to get tenants, it's easier to advertise.
Yeah.
I think there's more competition for sales, definitely.
Yeah.
And I think, to be honest with you, with lettings, you can put photos on and the demand's so high that they're gone immediately. Whereas I think with sales, it takes a little bit more nurturing for
people to get that journey, isn't it?
Yeah.
And
definitely.
Also, I think from a letting perspective, you have to have some qualification of knowledge of understanding what you're actually doing.
The legislation.
But obviously with sales, the bar is still very low for an agency.
Yeah.
In the fact of like, you could literally, like Mark said, you can get a pen and paper, pad, and just like do sales now. In some respect, isn't it? So trying to pull yourself away from that pack.
Yeah.
And actually showcase that you are not just any agent out there.
Yeah. Well, I think all.
Sorry, before you reply to that, can you bring the mic a bit towards you?
Yeah. Yeah. I think definitely over this last year, all of our staff have gone through their sales and lettings qualification, which I think makes us. I don't think there's any agent in the town where all staff are qualified and they're all with a government recognised qualification. And all of our staff have done a professional photography course as well to make our pictures stand out.
Yeah.
So they know what they're doing, they know about the lighting, they know where they should be taking the pictures from. And I think it makes a massive difference.
Well, it creates unity in the brand.
Yeah.
And I used to have exactly the same conversation. Like quite a few years ago, we had different offices and one would take out pictures one way and one would take pictures other way. But ultimately, when they go on your website, when they go on social media, you'd have like almost you'd think like, how we got two different brands effectively by what we're portraying online. So it's a great move because those are the micro bits that shows why we care, that we're not just an agent that just puts properties on and just hopes for the best.
Is there anything, like you mentioned that you've got a restaurant as well?
Yeah.
So you guys obviously have got you've got entrepreneurial spirit inside of you. You started buying, renting and selling properties, and then you opened letting agents, sales agents, restaurants. So this isn't just the usual sort of journey whereby somebody works as an estate agent and then they open an estate agency. So I'm quite curious to know, like, is there anything that happens or has happened in the restaurant that you can transfer over to a estate agency, like where you think to yourself, like, oh, we've learnt lessons there? Or
no, but definitely the estate agent side of like nurturing and having contact with vendors, sellers, we are starting to implement that now in the restaurant, where we have a system where we're in touch with them and we're sending them out a newsletter and we'll contact them via email on a regular basis.
Interesting. So, and I mean, you know, obviously you've put that system into your estate agency, and many estate agents don't even have that inside their estate agency. So that's something for us to touch on in a minute as well, I guess. Well, we can talk about it now. How have you seen that affect things inside your estate agency? Like, because it's a great idea, it makes sense in principle, nurture people, and hopefully it will make a difference. Mm-hmm. But is there any actual evidence that you can think of that it makes a difference inside your estate agency?
Yeah, definitely. We've had over the last month 3 people that have had market appraisals, like maybe a year or so ago, and they've just come back.
Right.
And they've obviously just been
floating around,
not ready. But obviously we've been keeping in touch with them on nurture journeys, and they're now ready at that point now.
Nice.
And they've contacted us saying, we had a market appraisal, we're ready to market.
That's nice. And so I guess, like, from looking at that over on the restaurant point of view, what are you thinking that will achieve there then? Because I guess, are you looking for new people or returning customers, or how would the nurturing work there?
I think you've got to be at the forefront of people's minds.
Yeah.
You've got to be. You can't just sit back and open the doors and expect people are going to turn up.
Too much competition for that,
right? Yeah, there is. So I just think the system that we're starting to implement into the restaurant is across social media as well.
Yeah.
So it's contacts that we've got from booking systems and sending them out offers, just basically letting them know that we're there, and also going out to existing followers on social media, but also out to new followers as well. Nice.
I like it. Okay, so that sort of leads me into the next point then, is you've gone out of your loft office, pen and paper, small office, bigger office, into sales. Now you're bringing in technology, and we've touched on the nurturing side of things. How else have you used technology to help you, I don't know, move the company on?
Well, we've started, obviously, Facebook ads, Google ads. We've now got a digital marketer that works in-house now. And I think we've been really lucky. We've doubled our staff since in the last year. And the staff that we've got are younger generation, and 2 of them have not worked in a estate agency before. So they've gone through what we want them to do. So they've gone through the training, the coaching. We've put them through the qualifications, and the only thing they know is what we've taught them.
That's estate agency to them.
So they don't fall back in it to any old ways, which I think sometimes you can. You do fall back sometimes, and you don't realise, right, I need to do that. I need to get this nurture journey set up, or I need to get this blog created. It's got to go out. It's got to be a continuous thing for all. Like, life cycle's great, but if you're not keeping on top of it and you're not doing what you should be doing on a daily basis, and I think the older people tend to fall back and don't understand the technology. They don't understand how to even speak to someone about the technology. So the younger ones are trained exactly how we want them. They understand the technology. So when they're explaining it to people are like, oh wow. Yeah.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because I was just saying to our last on our last podcast, I was saying that sometimes you have to almost look at it backwards. If you're from an older generation, you have to look at it backwards for it to make sense in this. And what I mean by that is, if you've done it a certain way and then technology comes along that allows you to do it differently, you can see the benefits, but sometimes you just sort of think, yeah, but I'm happy doing it this way.
Yeah.
But if you imagine for a second that you'd only ever done it the new way, and then someone come along and suggested you the other way, you'd be like, are you fucking crazy?
Yeah.
Like, why would I do that?
Yeah.
So it's just what you get used to, I guess, isn't it? You complain about being busy and then someone takes away some of that work and you go, oh, no, I don't mind doing that. It's the same with everything in life, I guess, isn't it? Food, exercise, you can name whatever you want. You get used to something and then the change is difficult, right?
Yeah. I think definitely for them, the younger ones that are...
They just see it as normal.
Yeah, it's just the norm.
Yeah, if you gave them whatever your old CRM was, it'd blow their mind, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Well, so we still have an older CRM that we're in the middle of transferring over to a new one for lettings.
Yeah.
And when they've looked at the lettings, they're like, what actually?
How?
Yeah, what is that? What does it actually do? Nothing like what yours does.
Yeah.
What's quite interesting when you're talking about employing new staff, I remember being exactly in that same process. So I went through the letting side. We had a churn of trying to find property managers because we thought that would be the best way to do it, recruit from other agents. But then they'd always pull those bad bits of why you were better than the other agents. And actually going back to what your restaurant, I said about, we started to recruit from high-end hospitality because, order taking, customer experience, on your feet all day, understanding like what the customer wants, all transferable skills, just applied in a different way. If you back up with training and knowledge for them to undertake it, and I'd find you'd have not older, but like people who've been in a property management position 5-10 years. You might have someone who 2-3 years down the line have started to overtake where they are because of their mindset and application towards that role that I didn't know what it was like 5 years before. So I only know it my way. It's really interesting,
So when the business started to become a bit more like, right, this business needs to now stand on its own 2 feet, and we're going to have targets, and we're going to try and take on a certain amount of properties and all of that sort of stuff. When there was more pressure.
When it stopped being fun,
When it stopped being fun, yeah, that's right. I mean, you've got these different stages of estate agency. Your startup's going to be fun, and then you've got a really shit bit after that, whereby everyone's getting paid except you, and then after that you've got a section whereby it's a bit nicer. So in the section whereby you're trying to grow, which you're coming out the other side of at the moment, what is there any lessons that you learned maybe around, I don't know, the way that you treated staff or what you expected from staff or how you were going to get properties? Like, what are the things whereby you thought, if we do this, that's got to work out well, but actually that's not going to work?
I think even down to staff positions in the office of what role they've had. Like, we've looked at, obviously we've had existing staff and we've brought new staff on to do an existing role, and they've naturally kind of fell into a different role and not had the role that we actually employed them for, and thought, actually you're so much better there. And I think at the minute we're still changing things. The staff are still kind of adapting to roles and working different. So I think going from lettings, then we had to adapt to going into sales. And obviously at the time there was only 3 of us when we first opened the office, which was, obviously we have the student side of the business as well, the letting side, and then sales. So we kind of all chipped in and done everything. And then we've brought on new members of staff, and then we've kind of all were chipping in doing everything. So we had to take a step back and say, actually, this doesn't work anymore. Like, you need a specific job role.
some accountability. And
you need to be responsible for that. You need to be a valuer. You need to be a negotiator.
And did you find that because it wasn't working, or because as a boss you weren't able to, if everyone's doing a bit of everything and you're sort of not fully happy with someone's job, you're not able to go, look, you're not really doing this properly, without them saying like, well, I'm doing my best, I'm doing a bit of everything. Was it that, or was it?
No, I think it was keeping control over what actually had been done, and
who did what, and
this needs to be done. Oh well, it's everybody's job role, so
it's no one's.
That's what.
Who's taking accountability for it?
Yeah. So I think and that was a big learning curve for me, because we'd gone from me doing everything, then me and another girl doing everything, then bringing somebody else on as an apprentice, and
it's been a natural progression, it seems, because like an evolution of probably you as an individual, Kerry, because you think about like when you first set up, like went into a loft, it was just me doing it. And we brought an admin person on and do some bits, and then we went into a small office and did a little bit more. But now you've got to the point where, especially when you've got another business next door, a property portfolio, and doing a letting, and starting to do sales
and a development.
You have to have
building new.
You have to come out of the chaos and actually go, right, I need structure. And because like it can't all be this way, and that's a great trait to recognise that, because you could be back in chaos land and just going like, just do your best. And like, we
just do it properly. The thing is, I've got a good analogy of that from my own experience as well. Like you say, you start the company, and then you hire people to do the things that you were doing, so they just become your hands, and you tell them specifically how to do it, and any questions they've got, they ask you, and then it gets a bit more like that and a bit more like that, and eventually you get a team whereby you forgot that you made it this way. But you sit there thinking like, why don't these people fucking think for themselves? Why do they have to ask me everything? And then I remember going through the process of trying to change it. And I can remember clearly we were going to send out this mass email to the database. And my designer and my content person had come to me and said, we've done the content, we've designed the email. If you just want to check it over, then we'll get it sent out to the database. And I was like, no, it's all good. If you say it's good, send it. And they were like, don't you want to check it? And I was like, nope. If you tell me it's all good, then it's all good. And they were like, we'll just check it again. And I was like, yeah, check it as many times as you want. But when you say it's good, it's going. And like inside, I was like dying. But it was this beginning of being able to say, you know, like Rob, I don't know, he might come to me and say, I don't know, what do you think about this? I'll be like, I don't know.
He just puts a thumbs back, and I go, what does
that mean? Like it do not.
You say it's good, it's good. The outcome that I'm looking for is this. You can get us there however you want.
Like coming from that part, obviously now working in Iceberg and going for that, especially from a leadership perspective and that lot, you get to the point where you have that self-empowerment of like rather than being just a leader of everything. You've now had to recognise that I need structure and I need people doing particular roles, and then we can then work on not monitoring maybe their performance, but monitoring the outcome for the clients. So like if something isn't working, at least we know like who does that role, how can we control it, how can I support you, how can we change it, how can we improve it? A bit like the photography, like if anyone was doing everyone's photography, like everyone was just doing it. Now at least you know that whoever's doing the photography, we've now got to a point where if you're in that role, and we've identified that role, you need training. Rather than just going, can someone go and do those photos and just put it online?
Do it to your best of your ability.
Do it your best.
Whatever you think is best. So that's made a big difference for you, has it? Like you were saying, like, you know, everything was everywhere, and now you've started to realise that actually we're going to need specific roles, or would you say that you're still in the middle of figuring that fully out? Like,
I think we got to a point where I felt everything was a bit messy. And so I took a step back, and everyone's got a job role and everyone's got a target now within that job role. I think still now I'm still thinking there's a couple of staff that maybe need a shift round to make it right. But the progression that we've had,
Yeah, it's in the
over
right direction.
it's definitely in the right direction.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's brilliant. So that's a really useful piece of information for people as well. So there's two things in there, isn't there? Like the idea that, as you say, there's a point in the beginning where you can all do everything, but that will eventually evolve over into you're going to have to pick something and do it, and we're going to need some accountability here. But then there's also that element of like, and also still the flexibility, because there's a small team. So even if I say to you like, yeah, you're just doing this, that doesn't mean you can't help the rest of us out.
Yeah.
Which I guess everyone in the team must be aware of anyway.
Yeah.
So then you've started to introduce targets. I'm interested in that because that must be quite a difficult thing as well, both from the staff's perspective and from your perspective. It's not difficult at all when people hit their targets, but when they don't, then what?
Well, I did threaten they wouldn't get any commission paid if they didn't hit their target.
Does that work?
Well, to be fair, I think I've set them too low because they're absolutely smashing them at the minute.
Brilliant.
So yeah, they're money orientated people.
Yeah.
Which,
And I guess
everybody is.
I guess everybody needs a target for something, don't they? Because otherwise, what am I even trying to achieve here?
Yeah.
1 sale, 2 sales, 5 sales? I don't even know what. If I'm busy one day, is that good enough or not? Or to be directionally correct, I need some form of goal, don't I?
Yeah, and I think I promised them if they reach the target, then we'll go next door for a meal and on me.
Yeah, very nice.
So that is more.
Yeah.
More of an incentive.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've got a very close knit team there anyway, haven't you? So
team, yeah.
I think everybody would try and help each other out to hit their targets there, right?
They do, definitely.
Okay, so when you look at
No, I mean you can leave it.
No, it's fine. So when you look at the other estate agents that surround you, and maybe estate agency just in general, having come at this from a completely different angle, as an entrepreneur, as somebody that builds businesses, really, what do you see as wrong with the existing version of estate agency?
To be honest with you, in our town now, everyone's up the game. Everybody's really up the game. There's 2 agents that are really big agents. They've been around for like 35, 40 and 45 years.
Yeah.
And they've always been the leaders in what they do. They're not, I think they've got technology, but they're finished on their properties. The quality of the marketing that they're putting out is
Below standard.
Yeah, it's not great.
Go on, Kerry,
it seems to be,
Get out there.
going to be diplomatic. I think because they're well known, they get the properties on.
Complacency, maybe.
Yeah, and they're not. They've both got lots of slow movers that are stagnant, and I think the difference with us is we don't allow what to have slow movers if they're not. Properties are not moving for whatever reason.
So it's got to be done.
Is it so? Do you find it? Would you say it's what you bring is more passion and being proud of what you do?
Yeah.
Rather than it just being like you said, like maybe you might have some people you might want to come and just do the job. So the job is go and take their property on, whereas the Browns way might be I'm going to go and take that property on to the best that I've been qualified to do it.
And it's got to sell, like you say, it's got to sell. It's a small business.
Yeah.
We don't make any money out of advertising stuff.
Yeah, it does. But we will plan out what happens from that property from the day that it comes on the market to the end of the contract. And
it's interesting that you say that. And do you share that plan with the seller?
Yeah.
In quite specific detail, because we were just talking to the previous guest, and he was saying that, which I hadn't really heard before, not in a estate agency anyway. He was saying that he's part of his contract even details out exactly what they're going to do. He doesn't leave it open-ended in terms of we will do viewings for you, or we will do sales progression for you. he puts it in a box, like, you know, we will do this amount of viewings that lead to this amount of offers, and from the offer we will do this amount of sales progression, so that it just doesn't end up with this kind of open-ended thing. And that might be a bit extreme compared with what you're talking about, but it sounds like you need a proactive plan as to how to get to the end goal here, which is exchange and completion and payment, rather than, hey, we've got a listing.
Yeah.
And so when you create that plan for that property, is it something that you then, I guess you're already sharing it with the vendor when you're on the valuation as to the fact that you're going to do that?
Yeah.
Do you go back and have a conversation with them afterwards, or do they just...
Yeah. So this is something that's quite new.
Yeah.
So the marketing plan's always been there for us.
Yeah.
We would follow that, and on week whatever would ring them up and say, you know, obviously this is what we're doing with your property this week. This is what's going to happen.
Yeah.
You know, if it's social media, we're going to put it on social media on this day. Can you share it? Can you ask people to like it? On this day, it might just be a change up of photos, a change of the description, or it might go as a featured property. And it's always something that we've done, but now it goes to the seller.
Yeah. So that they can actually...
Yeah.
Their expectations, they know exactly what's coming.
Yeah.
They're not phoning you up going...
what's happening.
It's such a key thing as well, isn't it? Because even with things like the website, we're building a website for you. If we didn't tell you what the time frame is and what we'll be doing, we'd be getting phone calls or emails from you saying, like, just wondering what's happening.
Yeah.
Even though we might be thinking like, well, we're building it. We said we were going to contact you next week. We're busy. But, you know, to you, it's like, well, I just haven't heard anything for weeks. So I guess, like, you know, that's such a key thing. Estate agents are not unfamiliar with the idea that they need to communicate, but quite often they don't really have anything to communicate about. So this gives a nice structure.
Also, like, it's quite, I think, quite a few agents I speak to over a period of time, you get so used to doing the job for years and years and years, you just expect that everyone knows how it works.
Yeah.
And actually, the amount of people they forget, or they might have not moved for 5-10 years, and thinking, how does it work now? Because things have changed. Like, you know, I remember my partner Kel, like, her parents bought years ago and they've stayed in the same house. And when she went to go and buy a flat a few years ago, I said, what was your experience like? She said, Mum and Dad told me to walk down the high street and register with every single estate agent. And I said, how did that go? She went, well, didn't hear anything from them. And then my mate sent me a picture of some property on Rightmove that I went and looked at and bought a flat. So, like, but their view is like, this is the way it should be done. So educating someone and also showcasing what you do and how you do it, sometimes people forget the consistency of that is the powerful part, that it's not everyone's going to know about it when you publish it. Like you said, someone who spoke to you last year is going to get that information. They're going to sit on it. They're going to get regular communication from you, and they're going to remember that process of like, okay, when we do move next year, we know how we're going to do it at Browns, not still... I don't know, do we put it on Rightmove? Is Rightmove a thing, or do we put it out to the database? Or
I think we ask obviously as well, how often do you want me to contact you? Yeah. Like, and how do you want me to contact you? Do you want me to ring you?
Yeah.
Do you want me to send you WhatsApp?
Or do you want me to contact you?
Because some people are, well, you only spoke to us last week.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's a great... I'm the type of person to be like, just leave me the fuck alone. Yeah. Let me know when you sell it. But someone else, you know, they'd be like, if you could keep me informed, like, you know, every other day,
I'd rather a message than a phone call.
Yeah,
Send us a text.
Absolutely. Yeah. So as you look forward then in your journey, have you got any plans? Have you got all that planned out, or are you sort of winging it?
No, I think obviously the new website coming is the next big thing.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, how will the website help then? Let's dig into that. Like, how is that going to, you know, for anyone listening, they won't know what you're talking about, so you don't have to go into too much detail about it if you don't want. But you've got a website currently. Yeah. How is a new website going to particularly make a step forward for you in your business, in your mind?
Well, I think it's going to, obviously the new website that we've got is an AI website that'll link with the software that we've got now with the database. So it'll adapt to when sellers, landlords, and it's going to be very informative. There'll be videos, blogs,
And
so
at the
any
moment,
information.
what's the website like now?
Basic.
Okay.
It's basic.
Yeah.
It's nice. It's not really that old. It doesn't do what we need it to do.
So I guess again, like
Yeah.
I'll let you jump in, but I guess like it ties in with kind of what you were saying about the communication with letting people know what their journey is going to be.
Yeah.
And if the website's going to have really useful communication that can put the right things in front of the right people, then it's like doing that for prospects in a way.
Yeah.
This is what your journey could be like.
Yeah. And I think we're setting these journeys up, but we're still working on them.
Yeah, of
we're
course.
still, I would say, not even halfway through.
Wise a lot in the back of inside your head.
Oh, what was you going to say?
No, I was about to say, like you said about it was a relatively newish website. So, like my experience in the past, when as an agent, we changed the website to change the website. We changed CRM to change another CRM, and then like you get a year, 2 years down the line, and you're like, I thought it was going to be something new, but really, what you look at it is like it's fresh. But it's a fresh skin. And like you said, if you've got other agents in your area trying to level up at the same time,
yeah,
unless you take that next leap, you get frustrated because you do something you think is going to change, but someone else is down the road is trying to improve their little bit of website, and someone's trying to do videos and you're trying to do videos.
Yeah.
So like, unless you take that big leap in front of the pack, it's a bit like, I don't know, like Usain Bolt, for example, you know, like everyone else is behind him and he was like out on the pack. Whereas like, unless you don't have that mindset towards taking that leap of faith, going right, I'm going to be bold to be different.
Yeah.
I want to be different outside the, what is it? When I first met you, 855, 845, 850. Like, I'll give it £5 cheaper or £10 cheaper.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. Like, this next leap is. So the question I was asking you, when you went from that newish website now and previously before.
Mm-hmm.
You got it done. You probably were proud of it at that time because you thought it's fresh. Like, how long did that last before you thought?
Not long, to be honest with you. Not long. It looks good. It looks nice. It's just.
It's It's like, what does it then do?
Yeah.
What does it serve afterwards?
Yeah.
It might look fresh, but.
Yeah.
Or does that generate anything more for you? But like going back to what Mark was saying, though, if you starting to connect stuff up behind it, it gives a why to why you're doing the website. Like, why am I writing a bit of content, or why am I doing this? Because it then will deliver to someone who actually is going to be useful to them.
Yeah.
Rather than them going to a website going.
Yeah, somebody who.
Yeah, it's nice, like any other estate.
The website knows the person's on the market with another agent and hasn't sold, and lo and behold, they're seeing content around what to do if you're not happy with your agent. So,
yeah,
you know, it actually serves a purpose. So the website is a nice step forward, and then what happens with Brown? So are you looking to build a business whereby then it's going to settle, you and Paul are going to be able to continue to plan and building other businesses and people who run the estate agency, or are you going to open other branches? What are you thinking the plan is with the estate agency?
I still think we've got a lot of work to do to get where I want to be. I do want to open another branch. Paul's daughter's now working with us, so
right. So you've got
a next generation. So yeah, I don't know what the plans are, but I still know I'm not finished yet. I'm always looking for the next thing. And to be honest with you, we're April, May. We've hit our target for last year.
Whoa.
For the whole of last year.
I wish I'd got you that new website sooner, because I'd have definitely claimed it to do with the website.
No, but I've noticed it. I can see it from the coaching perspective.
Yeah.
When we first met, you were still in that chaos, weren't it?
Yeah.
You were still in the tail end of the chaos of like, we're just coming out of COVID, trying to find our feet.
Yeah.
And I message you all the time in our little Browns group. Sometimes I say, like, I've noticed the refinement process come in.
Yeah.
Like the focus, and it's awesome to see. Like, even just going from videos to the videos you're now doing, getting on camera, bringing the identity and the passion towards it, not just being a logo that we just sell you at anyone's house for any price.
Yeah.
And I can see it from a coaching side. You always get excited about the future potential of the individual.
Yeah. I think even the staff the way that the staff are thinking, like we've got cameras like this, we've got a little place that was set up so they know
You can see it's going somewhere.
Monday or Tuesday we need to get some kind of content now. We've got the camera there, we've got the lighting, we're ready with a little setup to do some videos, do some blogs, get something.
Yeah.
And I think obviously the fact that we've got somebody that's concentrating on just having content to put out, whether it be animated video or a blog, and like you say, it's about educating people to why would they continue to be on our CRM, why would they continue to follow us on social media.
Yeah, what's in it for them?
Yeah.
So a question to that though is, like, when you set up, you said 2019, you went from lettings to a estate agency. We're now in 2024, 5 years later. Everything you're saying now, did you ever think that this was going to be how you, when you open up your estate agency in the office, you said, right, we're going to have
And do sounds.
a video for production, sales, like?
No.
Artificial intelligence in the CRM, on the website. We're going to do automations. We're going to have a coach. No, probably not.
It's just, I love the idea of the fact that you've got there, because, like, you know, we were only talking on the previous guests, and we've had guests in the past where sometimes technology removes parts of the role of people need to do. Administration, receptionists, like people registering and stuff like that. And then people fear, oh, technology is going to take our jobs. But really, like you just said then, is like, we've got a videographer and we're going to spend a couple of days creating some really good content for our marketing that we're going to then showcase to our audience effectively. And what a more, I know for the right set of people, but what more of an enjoyable role that is for your team than them coming in on a Monday morning, you going, get on the phones, we need to just randomly call people in our database that
don't want to be called.
Don't want to be called. Like and like when you look at employment of talent in the future, imagine if, as you grow your team and someone walks into your office and says, this is how you work, this is our working week, and they go down to one of your competitors down the road and they say, right, you don't get trained to be this, we don't put you through this, we don't do video days, you're just there as almost a grunt on the front desk trying to hammer the phones and get us deals.
Well, obviously the new members of staff, one of them's worked in an estate agent before as an apprentice. So when he came to our office, he was like,
Jesus.
Yeah. He was like, wow, this is different. And now that he's in it, he's like, it's so much better.
Yeah.
It's so much better.
It's great to watch. From the outside, it's an inevitability that it goes to the place where you want it to go.
Yeah.
From the outside, it's easy to see.
Yeah.
Obviously, when you're stuck inside it, you're like, yeah, but I'd like it to go there tomorrow, please.
Yeah.
And it, these things take time, but it's just an inevitability because of the path that you're on with it.
Yeah. I only feel probably this year that things are starting to get clear from being that scrambled, messy, I don't know which direction to go in. I need to straighten everything out. It's probably only now that I can actually see it working since we've started doing it.
I think it sounds like is a lot of it is your systems and your processes. And like, you're doing the webs, like you said to it, you want to build a website that's an AI-based website that then showcases people to things. But if you haven't got the staff at the front end or technology at the front end putting in the right data, never going to work, isn't it?
Pointless. It would have been pointless when you had your first office where you were just doing your own letting stuff. Like, there wouldn't have been no point in it.
Yeah.
So it has to come at the right time, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So the last little bit of advice then before like the final question, the person that is sitting there and it's a mess and they can't see a way out of it, what's a piece of advice for them?
Bite-sized pieces. Take a step back. I think at the time, I had a job role when we were working, so I was trying to do a job as a valuer and calling people to book viewings and doing sales progression, that I couldn't take a step back to actually think, right, actually I need to look at where this is going. What do I need to do? Otherwise I'm just going to get in more of a mess.
Yeah.
So I think remove yourself, do it bite size.
Yeah, I like that.
And get a coach.
I mean, yeah, we it's like we have this, don't we? We get together and naturally you have that entrepreneurial spirit. So you're like, I want to do everything and anything.
Yeah.
And the thing that I've seen over the last year is your progression towards, right, this is the stretch, but what's the first step?
Yeah.
And what's the next step? And like we've been doing it as we've been going through, especially
Yeah.
those journeys. Like we've got loads to build out, and we've still got loads to build out, but let's just start with the one. And a lot of people never start with that one because they're still in that confusion of like, I've got so much to do.
Yeah.
When I first started Iceberg, I remember Hayley, my wife, and a few other people laughed at because I had this I had this organisational chart that had, I don't know, I can't even remember how many people, 20 people on it, and I was at the top, CEO, and I was working in what turned into my first son's bedroom on this little miniature desk, and I had CEO on my business cards, and they were like, really? And for me, it was clear to me at the time that if it was ever going to be the 20 people in the company or more than that, my main job was CEO. I had to figure out the things. I had to be the person on the top of the ship that done the steering wheel and said, we're going towards that island. And it just so happened that I also at the time had to run downstairs and do the 20 other jobs. But my main thing was making sure we didn't crash.
Yeah.
But so many people, I think, get caught up in, they're putting, I don't know, coal in the oven and no one's steering the ship.
Yeah.
And they're too embarrassed even to say like, no, I'm just gonna be CEO. They're like, really? What, of this little company?
I think that you have to be able to take a step back, otherwise you're in the middle of it and you can't see what's happening.
No one knows what's going on, right?
Yeah.
And they're coming to you for advice, and you've got all these pressures outside of work, like, I don't know, an accountant's calling you about something, a tax return's due, a VAT, all this stuff's going on. And it's this wheels just spinning on the top of the ship, which are going round and round in circles.
Yeah.
That's great. Okay, so final question then. I'll let you ask.
So where do you see the future of estate agency?
With AI, estate agents' life's getting easier, isn't it, with AI? But I think we need to make sure the personal touch doesn't go and technology doesn't take over too much. I think we still need to have the personal contact with people, but I think I don't think marketing can get any more than what people are doing at the moment.
So would you say using technology to create more time to have more better conversations?
Yeah.
You say that, yeah?
Yeah, definitely.
Which like, you know, it's we sit with quite a few people. You're probably starting to see it now. Like we've had a discussion in this podcast, I think, where people forget that if you're on that hamster wheel and you're trying to do all this stuff, then actually, are you really having deeper conversations with your clients? Or is it, I haven't got time, I'm just going to speak to you, I put the phone down because I've got to just do this?
I think definitely when you log on your system on a morning now, everything's kind of there ready. I've got that to do, you need to do that, you need to do that. And the automated side of it's done, it does free up more time to actually get on the phone and speak to people and have a conversation, speak to them about how their marketing's going, what are they feeling, like what do they want to do. So I would like to think that technology doesn't take over.
Yeah, it just helps
the personal side.
Have more personal conversations. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Yeah. Brilliant. Thanks for coming in.
You're welcome. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for listening to this Estate Agency X podcast. Can you make sure that you're actually subscribed to this podcast channel if you liked the content? It helps us massively to get better guests, and it just helps us generally. So you might think you're subscribed, but just have a double check, whatever your podcast platform of preference is, that you're actually subscribed, and then that way we can continue to grow the channel and get better and better guests for you.